listening to Metal Mixtape here on KSKQ 89.5 FM Ashland, Oregon, 94.1 FM Medford, Oregon, streaming online on kskq.org. It's the boy, it's the Don, DJ Ramo. I am honored beyond belief to have the most special guest I have ever had on my radio show in the last 6 years, because this one touches home. This one touches base. When I was 6 years old, I grew up in a Mexican family. We never listened to any rock and roll, any metal. My brothers were into hip hop. And I remember I went to my friend's house and we were playing with some toys on the ground and everything. And I heard somebody playing guitar from a distance. And I told my friend Randy, by the way, I was like, hey, who's that playing guitar over there? He's like, oh, that's my dad. And I was like, we go watch him? And I was like, yeah, let's, sure. He's like, we can go watch him. I go in there and his dad's playing a Randy Rhoads Jackson, and he's playing Over the Mountain. Right. And my mind completely got blown away from there. And I remember my friend Randy's dad, Steve, sat me down and told me about Rudy Sarzo. He told me about Randy Rhoads. He told me about Tommy Aldridge. He told me about Ozzy Osbourne. And since then, I've been playing music for 20 years. I throw my own festivals. I've been on radio. So, Rudy, you are one of my heroes. And just thank you so much for being on the show.
Well, listen, you're one of my heroes too, because you're one of the people that keeps our music, bringing it to a new generations of listeners. Once they tune into your station, listen to you. Yeah.
No, I am beyond honored, Rudy. Like, I've been watching like your live videos ever since I was a little kid. And this is just incredible because, I'm going to ask you a whole lot of your career questions, but I just want to get to know you as well. You've been a part of so many amazing bands in your career. You've toured the world. You're one of the most busiest men in rock and roll existence. Do you think young teenager Rudy would believe that you'd be living the life you're living now? And also, like, up to this point in your life, do you ever reflect on your massive career and just go like, holy crap, Rudy, like, I've put in so many hours into this?
Yeah, let me go backwards. Let me go with your last question.
Okay.
I am a work in progress. I cannot stop and look in the rear view mirror. I don't have time for that.
Yeah.
The only time I do is if I make a lane change in my career,
Okay.
But that's about it. That's about it. As far as, yeah, I mean, everything that I am is because little Rudy took that step, or pivot, a degree, of the path that I was programmed to follow. And whether it's to the right or to the left, it's a matter of perception. I had to take that. I had to go in a different direction than I was expected to, because it was either socially, be in that social box of this is what I'm expected to do at that time in history itself. I mean, we're talking about when I made a decision to do what I do now. We're talking about right after the Beatles were on Ed Sullivan. And of course, I did not fleshed it out. And my initial reaction was, okay, I want to do something that is going to get me a lot of girls' attention. And that was music. And then you become a musician. Some guys that I knew, they stay in that level of just wanting to play music to get girls' attention and whatever else comes with it. Mine was to be a recording and touring artist. And I could not do that if I stayed in Miami, Florida in the 70s. So, little Rudy, inch by inch, just step by step. Now, having said that, little Rudy could never imagine the blessings that I have received. Because my imagination was, again, inside of a box. There were limitations to it. And to actually accomplish a lot of the things that I have, my imagination was not that broad. And, things started happening for me and to me once I gave up control of what my imagination was all about. I left it up to God's imagination. So, then that's when things started happening.
That's incredible. By the way, my co-host Josh just joined us.
Hey, Rudy.
We we
Hey,
we
how you
we
doing?
we both had to rush out of work so we could meet up in one place to talk to you. That's how excited we were. But uh,
Wow,
but
awesome.
but Rudy, that's incredible, man. It's just following your career and like that's so awesome that you were able to fulfill like little Rudy's dream, and also just the discipline it takes for you to be able to want to do that because like was there a transition period between where like you were just like trying to be a musician to like a touring musician where maybe it was like it was burning the tread on the tires or burning you out of gas like where was there a time where like maybe the music and everything got so fast you had to check yourself and like realize that like you had to like you had to slow down to manage everything.
Yeah, I mean that can happen when you're struggling to make it. Also, it can happen after you've made it, because then you're struggling to sustain a career. It's I know music is not a competitive sport, but the music business is very competitive. So you have to if you uh there's a right now I'm going through the era in my career where I really do not rely on the music business anymore. People, it's mostly about getting radio airplay, which is that's demand based on on the consumer. People want to hear our music, and it kind of like bounces off each other. It's a this tubular loop that is that we perform, people like what we do, then they go on demand and they listen to our music. And then they listen to our music and then they come back and see us again when we go return to the area,
Oh yeah.
that they happen to be living. So it's like that. It's circular. Uh, there's a cycle to it. So I really I don't depend on the music industry per se anymore, just the way that, let's say, somebody who is developing a career has to. And I can't even imagine how they do it nowadays without an infrastructure of a record company that existed back in the day. You had
Yep.
artist relations, you had record company, you had distributors, you had producers, you had engineers. Now you have to do it all by yourself. Graphic artists, you name it, video makers. Now it's up to the artist to do all of that. Which there's a freedom in it, but then again, if you're starting out, there's nothing better than to have the experience of people in the machine and in that structure that have been successful with many other artists. you know I've worked with people, like the last great one that I work with, it has to be John Kaladner. He was running the rock side of mostly, he okay, his forte was taking classic artists and making them modern.
Ooh.
He would take Aerosmith from the 70s and then make him 80s MTV icons. He did that with Whitesnake. He did that, Cher, and so many other artists. For the Geffen label, he was great at that. And there's no people like that anymore. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
even whether they're taking classic artists and modernize them, or even breaking them, discovering them. Nobody does that, really. You have to now, from knowing a lot of these young artists. What they tell me is that, and whatever record company they approach is all based on how many followers and views they have on social media. That's all. They don't even go for quality of music or direction or what's going on. It's all about
Wow.
the algorithm, and that's it.
It's absolutely insane that like you are 100% right that like and you know what I hear too is that like how hard it is for any artist to like be able to tour and be able to like distribute albums, merch, or anything that, you know, a lot of like people I hear like doing music nowadays, they don't even consider touring an option because how expensive it is. You know, a lot of people nowadays that I see like on TikTok or on YouTube or on Instagram, there it's kind of like it's exactly what you were saying, where it's like it's an algorithm based, it's a views
Yeah.
based, you know, because I mean every day, I mean I feel like I see 100 album releases a day, you know, and
Mhm.
if unless you have like a huge algorithm build, like almost nobody in the industry pays attention to you, and you could be
Yeah,
a great artist.
but these are albums that you're talking about. Uh, what major label, like let's say BMG, Sony, are releasing these 100 artists a day? Zero.
Zero.
Okay. Back in the day, that's who ruled the music
Yeah.
industry. That was it. You know, the people that would buy the end caps at Walmart or whatever, or Best Buy or whatever. I mean, Best Buy became known as the place to go and buy CDs, and then they'll sell you the you know, the washer and dryer or the refrigerator that you might need. That was the hook of Best Buy, and the same thing, you know, Walmart, Target, and all of that. And that's really rare unless you're an artist like Taylor Swift, you know, or Beyonce, you know, or Dr. Dre, you know, any of the major artists. Uh, it doesn't happen anymore. So yeah, so you have all of these independent labels just struggling to get people's attention. Imagine if Costco was all filled with independent brands, labels. You know, they have their own brand, Kirkland, and they push that. And it's really good. I trust a lot of the Kirkland, you know, Costco thing, label, you know, brands of clothing and whatever. But boy, it's you know, people usually go for the bigger brands. Like when I go there, I go for Samsung because I've had a few Samsung TVs and they were pioneers on, you know, the flat screens and all of that. So it's still, you know, pretty much uh, brand based. But if your brand is not well known, like an independent label, that's very tough.
Yeah, no, I 100% completely agree. As a musician who's trying to do something right now, it's insane how, you know, like how you said, you know, back in the day you had like your engineers, you had a whole group of people that like really believed in an artist to really push them to really get them discovered and get them in, you know, get them heard by people. And nowadays it's like, you know, me myself, like I run a YouTube channel, I have to post on 4 or 5 social medias. I have to do all my own video editing, audio editing, pushing, and all that. And it's go ahead.
Okay. And you're a musician making the music, right?
Yeah.
Okay. When okay, because you mentioned Randy Rhoads, and to me, that's the epitome of and also with a time, an epitome in time in the music industry, where there was the least distractions for any
Oh.
musician, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay, you know, right now I will have my bass on. I will be doing this on Zoom. I would do this when the record came out, and the publicist would say, "Okay, we're going to assign some interviews to, you know, let's say Quiet Riot Mental Health. You know, we're going to assign some interviews for Kevin, some for Frankie, Rudy, Carlos, and that was it. And I do podcasts every day, mainly because people request it. They get out, you know, and I want to be, you know, I want to be I want to help out because I think podcasts, we are the first generation that can actually document our truth, our perception for for eternity or as long as the internet exists, you know.
100%.
And yeah, and I support that. You know, people ask me when am I going to write another book? I don't have to write another book. This is my way of telling the story. Anything you want to know about me, if you have a question, I'll tell you. I'll give you an answer. I don't have to write it in the book. It took me a year and a half to write Off the Rails. I'm glad I did because it's. If people ask me about, they want to know about Randy, I say, well, you know, borrow the book from a friend and read it. It's right there, you know. But having said that, the podcast, it's because I get. It's sometimes it could be the same questions, but if it's asked by different people at a different time, it pushes certain buttons and I might give you a more expanded or a different perception, a different angle.
Yep.
Answer from a different angle the same question.
That makes 100% sense, and I'm with you. How everything is just documented, and yeah, 100%. From different people asking similar questions, you know, because you could feel a different emotion that day and everything, and you know, we truly appreciate you just giving us time for our radio show. You know, we do a local radio show, and I still think there's a lot of great musicians and epic musicians out there, and you know what I love too is that, like, it doesn't matter. This is like a reference on Randy Rhoads. It doesn't matter like how many newer podcasts I see by any type of guitar players playing 7 strings, 8 strings, crazy down tunings, doing all these crazy sweeps. Everyone references Randy Rhoads and how innovative and how much he pushed everybody to really hit that next level. You know, and even recently, like I heard like Bradley Hall, like just like 2 days ago, mentioned Randy Rhoads again, putting him on the S tier, just on how influential, but how past his time he was on his guitar skills.
Yeah, since I was there and with both versions of Randy, the Quiet Riot version of Randy and Ozzy, I can give you a pretty clear picture. See, Randy came from an academic family. Mom and dad, music professors. They built a music school, Musonia in North Hollywood. So by age 4 or 5, he was already playing classical music, acoustic music, classical. He learned how to read, music theory, composition, all of the above. Academia. He followed an academic path. Right now with YouTube, and I'm as guilty as the next guy. Because I've been doing it for so long, when I learn something, and I learn something every day, or I internalize something and have a self-realization, which means that by the time you have learned a certain amount of information, you can take that information and teach yourself with it. Because like 1 + 1 is 2. You go, well, how about if 1 + 1 + 1? Oh, that's 3. Well, nobody taught me that, but I figured that out. You know what I mean? So it's the same thing with anything in life. You learn. That's why, you graduate from high school, you could pick college, you could go to the university, or you could go to the workplace. And then you're learning something completely different. If you graduate college and you can apply yourself to work in the field, now you're getting experience that you're not going to get that experience if you go to college or university, because you're still learning, but you're not being an experience. And sometimes experience will teach you more than if you continue to go on to a master or PhD, which means when you do that, then you become a professor. You don't have to be experienced to be a professor. You have to be knowledgeable. So there's 2 things that you deal with. What really separated Randy from anybody that I knew was that he was knowledgeable and experienced.
Yeah.
And the difference between Randy in Quiet Riot and Randy and Ozzy is that when we were in Quiet Riot, we were, just in pursuit of writing that song that the record company was going to sign us and say, okay, yeah, you guys are going to sign you to a record deal, and that song's going to be on the record. Okay. Once it never happened with Quiet Riot with Randy. But when Randy joined Ozzy he asked Randy, what do you want me to write? He told me this. This is how I know.
Wow.
And Ozzy's told him, just be yourself. And there you go. That's where the classical influence from Randy came out on those records, Blizzard of Oz and Diary of a Madman. If Ozzy would have said, oh yeah, write me something kind of like Black Sabbath, like I was doing, it would have been a different Randy. Maybe Randy would have not accepted it and just come back home, because he was looking for freedom. He was looking for that, whatever he was not allowed to do in Los Angeles with Quiet Riot. He was looking for that freedom away from home. That was the first time he was away from home ever. That was the first time he got on a plane.
Wow. Dang.
Yeah.
That's That's so that is so absolutely incredible and just mind blowing. Because I've listened to both of those albums so much. And you know what's like watching documentaries and other podcasts, people were saying like, oh, it was Ozzy even kind of make it after Black Sabbath. There was a lot of doubters out there, and I think the fact that he gave Randy that freedom to just express himself brought so much more power to the project. Because it was probably a different vocal style or like chorus formations or verse formations that Ozzy's never had to work with. Because the vocal styles you hear out of Ozzy with Randy are completely different type of songwriting than he was with Black Sabbath, and it's almost like Randy transformed Ozzy's vocals. What do you think on
Yeah,
that first take?
that is a really good observation. Uh, because I got to record with Ozzy the Black Sabbath re-recordings for the Speak of the Devil record. So I got to
Great album.
really, yeah, it was fun to make. I really got to experience that side of Ozzy singing those songs, and it was pretty much a whole different delivery.
Mm-hmm.
Not only a vocal delivery, but hold on. Are you there?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah. Yeah, not only a vocal delivery, but I don't know, different range. He was singing in a whole different range with Black Sabbath, and then he kind of like made it more melodic with this, with the Blizzard of Oz. Uh it was like he was singing slower. He had more melody in him.
Mm-hmm.
Like Goodbye to Romance. You
Beautiful
know,
song.
yeah, Goodbye to Romance, you can go and pretty much is crazy. Da 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 da. Goodbye to Romance. I'm with Black Sabbath, it was more aggressive sounding.
Yep.
Mr. Crowley. So it was kind of like he did not have to. Of course, he was younger when he started. When he started recording with Black Sabbath. So by the time he was in his early 30s, he was very comfortable singing in the pocket and not having to like deliver so many melodies and notes, you know,
Yep.
within a verse or a chorus,
Yeah.
Fitting with my woman, da 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 da. There's no song like that in Blizzard or Diary. I can't recall that. No. Yeah. With that that like that, no, there's none.
Yeah. No,
You know what I
it's
mean?
Definitely a
Yeah.
different style.
Yeah, completely. Which I think has really helped Ozzy to give his career longevity. I mean, if you listen to the new stuff he's doing today with all these modern writers and musicians, it's almost like he's gone back to the really melodic song format that he had with Randy, composing the music.
yeah. No, I completely agree, and it's insane just how I think every guitar player Ozzy's had has completely kind of changed what type of vocal delivery he does have, and in each one of his albums. But I know in Diary of a Madman and Blizzard of Oz, it was life changing when you were playing shows with Ozzy and Randy and Tommy. Like, do you remember like the first vibes that the crowd was getting, seeing like the new reformed Ozzy Osbourne? Because everybody was so used to seeing Black Sabbath, and it was a darker, like sometimes I feel more mellow and dark, and then all of a sudden there's this huge new project, and you guys are just like boom right in the face, just
Yeah, but
explosive, and I feel like you guys took the world by storm at that in those years.
yeah, and if you read my book and you follow the sequence of how I went from playing theaters to playing arenas, to becoming an arena band. Uh, we first started out on tour. I mean, this is when I joined the band. They had already toured in the UK and maybe also in Europe some shows, but definitely the UK with Bob Daisley and Lee Kerslake. Uh, before they came to America in 1981, and we did the Blizzard, the U.S. Blizzard of Oz, the North American, because we also went into Canada, and it was interesting. I mean, first of all, this is my first time at that level of touring. You know,
Mhm.
touring a touring musician with an album to promote, and we were on tour with Motorhead. So I understood that, you know, the value of the package, you know, having bands that are similar in style, you know, and the audience was mainly male oriented. I mean, I would say 80%, maybe 85 to 90% male. Uh, Black Sabbath fans. And not all the venues were sold out. As a matter of fact, at the very beginning, it was, you know, half to three quarters.
Mm.
And then when we went out with Def Leppard, and there were two factors. When we used to tour back in the day, back in 1981, we could do shows within 100 miles from each other, and a lot of those shows were booked by the same promoter. So there was not really any competition or between shows and the promoter because it was the same company, production company. And so it means that we would do a show in one place, and then the next one is about an hour and a half away. A lot of the musicians, guitar players, they would see Randy, call their buddies after the show and say, "We gotta catch Ozzy again tomorrow. We gotta see this guy. You know, you're gonna believe it." So we would see familiar faces in the audience and go, "Oh yeah, I saw this guy. You know, either 2 nights ago or last night." You know, and that's how it grew. And then when we started touring with Def Leppard on that same album, the second leg of the Blizzard of Oz, they brought in the females. So now you're getting about 30, maybe even 40% females in the audience. And of course, you're gonna add on the size of your audience. So we started going, you know, going from theaters. Now we're doing arenas, hockey arenas in the B and C markets, you know. So that that did really well. And then it was time to release the Diary of Madman record. And that's when we went full blown arena band with UFO and Starfighters, which is the guitar player that's playing now with AC/DC. He's like the nephew of the Young Brothers.
Okay.
And also we had Magnum, and yeah, it was a solid build. That's when we had the castle on stage, and yeah, so I watched the whole thing grow and build, but it was slow and steady at the same time. So it was very solid. It
Yeah.
wasn't rushed.
That's no, that's incredible, man. Just to hear all that and
First-hand perspective.
did the party ever hit you too fast when the fame and the arena started coming in like because nowadays the backstage is not what it was back in the day. Like the backstage, I feel like back in the day was so much bigger. Like explain to us how the end of a show would go. Like did you guys go right to your tour buses? Did you
Yes,
guys what exactly did you guys do exactly after shows?
straight to the tour bus out of town.
Out of town?
That's how, yeah, that's how Sharon kept it to keep Ozzy from getting into trouble.
That checks out.
I like it.
Yeah, I don't
And
mind. You know, it's like, yeah, I mean, there was always days off that I could, you know, go out there and journey around, you know, around town to see what's going on. But as far as having to do with the show, yeah, uh, straight into the bus, and most times I would go into my bunk and read the Bible.
I like it, man.
Nice. I can dig
Yeah,
that.
Dude,
yeah, yeah.
I absolutely appreciate it. You know, not before we move on, is there a personality trait of Randy and Ozzy that they show off away from stage that like it's like maybe not musician inspired, like just like a trait of a personality trait that maybe a lot of people don't see that may that like a different side of them?
No, I mean Randy was very. when I say pure in his personality, he was a guitar player and a teacher. That's I mean, of course, he was funny and he was young and he wanted to like, go out and see things and do things, but that's just being human. But at the end of the day, he was a teacher, a musician, and a teacher, and that's what he wanted to become. He gave notice to Ozzy and Sharon that he was going to go back to school and get his degree, his master in music, and teach.
That's awesome.
Go back to the family business. I mean, and also he wanted to get into the New York studio scene because that was the big one. That was the competitive one, and he had already people within the industry that were helping him out to do that. So he was probably going to go solo.
Okay.
More. We used to listen to prog rock when we get off the bus. We go in the back lounge, and chill out a little bit and listen to like Lee Ritenour and guitar oriented prog rock music, Metheny, Pat Metheny, things like that.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Man, that's incredible.
It's crazy to think what would happen if he went on and formed his own solo career and all that. What we could have got, what we would have seen.
Yeah, the amount of guitar books he probably would have written and instructional. It's insane, man. But it's still beautiful that still to this day how inspiring he is to musicians. One of the videos I recently watched is because I know you love pushing younger musicians. I saw you do the video of Neon Nights with Vinny Appice, Melody Christier, and Michael Badio. So
Yeah.
so what do you think? What do you think about like the new generation coming in, and what do you think about Melody Christier? Because it looked like you guys just had such a great time recording that video, and it also is just when I look you up, Rudy, you're just a constant community builder, with a lot of musicians. But I know I watched that one specifically last night.
Yeah, that happens to be there was a video that we did for the company. It's called Sawtooth Chromacast. It's like this owned by the same person. For example, I have my acoustic bass, my signature model, and Vinny has some drum products in there too, and Michelangelo has his guitars. So with Melody, we were supporting the company, creating awareness about the product with that. I do many things. I'm on the advisory board for the Education Through Music Los Angeles.
Oh, that's awesome.
And I'm getting more involved with that. It's for after school music programs. And which is only, I mean, I grew up with that. I can't imagine not having music in your school. That was like, to me, that's the thing that I look forward to the most when I went to school. That time when we actually either had somebody come in and play music so I could like see what they're doing and maybe learn something or participate. I mean, music, even if you're sitting down, you're participating in it somehow. I know because when I play and there's people sitting in front of me, I'm affected by them. And I will play a certain way according to their body language, how they react to what I'm playing. So it's a participatory art form, really is. It's not like a painting. Once the painting is done, it's there, and you just, you look at it and you admire it. With music, it's very interactive.
And what do you think is, you being a teacher and just an advisor and just support of the community, what is the number one frequent question that people ask you as far as like what they should know about the music industry and like the work ethic if they really want to be like a working artist?
Yeah, I would say my best reference is Randy, and the best advice I can give anybody is to learn music, academia, learn music and follow the program, the music program. First, you start, learning whatever program. They're all like a little bit different. Sight reading, is very important, because even though, to me, the biggest joy I get out of playing is playing from the inside, from the heart, not because I'm reading something, but reading music is paramount to education. You can learn faster if you can read something. It's like if, okay, we can all hear and understand, let's say, English.
Mhm.
But if you want to learn something in English, you got to pick up a book or watch a tutorial or watch a video. Sometimes picking up a book is
Yep.
even quicker, you know. So reading is to say, reading music is the same thing. You can learn things faster and apply them, you know. But then comes conversation. I'm not reading what I'm saying. We're having we're jamming with words now. That's what we're
Yep.
doing. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's so awesome. You got me inspired, man. I'm gonna go read a book after this. I absolutely love it. You know what? Now what's kind of a huge complaint right now in talking about programs and the music industry is how much AI is growing, and how much
Mm.
I've seen a lot of bigger bands now use AI artwork, AI things to like edit music and everything. I remember, like, hearing albums where everybody would all have to record in the same room, and nowadays it's just like cut and paste, all these auto tunes and everything. What do you think about like these new aged tools that people are using to be creative with their music?
Okay,
Yeah, sorry.
that's a two-pronged question. That's okay. I love it. It's wonderful. Okay, let me go to your first one, and hopefully I'll remember the second one. So if you remember the second one, okay, just remind. Okay, but the first one is AI. Remember at the beginning of our conversation, I was telling you about the infrastructure that existed with producers, engineers, artist relation people, right? Also co-writers. Sometimes the record companies say, well, I like these songs, but they need a little bit more beef to them. I'm going to bring an outside writer to work with you guys and improve these songs, right? Okay, AI has become that.
Okay.
AI is plugged into the algorithm. Algorithm meaning they are aware of what is popular
Mm,
through the demand. Everything is on demand now, right?
yep.
So the algorithm knows what's popular, what style, and what format, the content of the music, and the tempo and the key. They know everything. What is the most popular songs, right? Okay, so AI now becomes that. Remember, you just said AI creates the graphics. Yeah, there used to be a
Mhm.
graphic department. Now AI does it. AI, for those who embrace it, will become their favorite collaborator,
Hmm.
because that's all they're doing. They're collaborating with you.
Yep.
Yes, you need a graphic. You don't know anything about graphics, and you cannot afford, $5,000 to hire an independent graphic artist. Just let me know what you want, and I'll give it to you. Yeah, right there on the spot. Okay, that takes care of that. What's next? You know what I mean? So that chain, that infrastructure that used to exist as a music industry, and AI so far will not own your masters for in perpetuity.
Okay.
That's a good outlook
Which
on it. I never thought about
yeah,
that way.
yeah, yeah. So AI you know, can be also, they can be that extra writing partner, because I checked it out, just to see, just to make sure that when people ask me these questions, that I am knowledgeable
Yeah.
from experience, from having used it. And I gotta tell you, it's kind of like right now, because it's only based on the data that is in the database of that particular AI software, right?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure at some point they're gonna cross reference each other, and it's gonna become one big brain,
Yep.
filled with data, right? But right now,
Yep.
there's like all these independent uh, artificial intelligence software writers that are just accumulating uh, data and algorithms. At some point, it's going to be internal. Everything is like United Nations
Yep.
of the United Knowledge. It's like a big library full of information. And but on the way there, there's going to be a lot of growth. Right now, from my experience, it's like co-writing with a 3-year-old. There's
Yep.
gonna be, there's gonna be once in a while there will be like one line on the verse that you go, oh, that's a cool one. But then you got to write the rest because the rest is kind of like, oh, this is crap.
Yep.
It's really bad. So at some point, maybe 5 years from now, that one line is the whole verse now because it has so much information that it can draw from, and it's so much more smarter than it was five years ago. The growth with the AI is exponential.
Oh
It's
yeah.
multiplying every single second as we speak. AI is more intelligent today, I mean, right this moment, than when we first started our conversation.
It's insane.
Interesting take on that, because a lot of times when I'm hearing other musicians and such talk about AI, it's a very negative outlook on it. So to hear your take on it, it's kind of it's nice to hear a different outlook on the whole thing and how it can actually be useful.
Yeah, I mean that's what I just mentioned is based on a musician's, me being an experienced musician's outlook on the
Yes,
whole
sir.
thing. I mean, we've been through all of this. We've been through okay, the downside for record companies going away versus us having the freedom to put our music on YouTube or any social media, Apple, anything, iTunes, versus that. So some musicians said, oh, this is horrible. This is the end of music industry. I'm not going to make any music anymore. And we're talking about big guys like Elton John and so on, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And then the kids and the ones with the different outlook, they just say, wait a minute, you mean that I can own my masters forever? I don't have to like give away my music to a publisher. I can publish myself. Hell yeah, I'm going to do it. So the ones that had the good content and had this new source of a distribution now, they benefited from it. But you have to
Yeah.
have a positive outlook about it.
100%.
Definitely.
Yeah, and the second part to that question was, it's like the whole new way of recording, how like nowadays everybody can have their own studio in house. It feels like, like I hear from a lot of musicians back in the day where like you really had to practice the song all the way through and rehearse it before you went in. And nowadays it's very cut and paste. What do you think about like the new era of recording music?
Yeah. Okay. And this comes from having, well, my people ask me what my hobby is, and I would say quantum physics, because it's something
Love it.
that I went into when we had the lockdown. I was in search of the healing qualities of frequencies, music in general, not just music, but frequencies, because I know the difference between, I feel the difference between tuning on a 432 tuning rather than the standard 440 that we have today. And so here it is. And I'm going to give you an example.
Okay.
I like examples because they're very cut and clear.
Me too.
Okay. If you look at a photo of the Beatles at the cavern, they're like standing basically shoulder to shoulder. It's a small place, right? Then you zoom forward to the Beatles at Shea Stadium, small stage. They're still standing shoulder to shoulder. You watch them, and have you watched that Get Back documentary that was originally the Let It Be movie?
Okay.
Haven't had a chance to see that before. No.
Yeah. Okay. If you watch it, you're going to see them rehearsing at a motion picture stage. Huge. They're sitting in a circle next to each other, looking at each other, right? Face to face in this big, huge place. Everywhere they went, they keep that. They're cross-fading their energy. This is something that I became aware from studying quantum physics. We give out an energy field. I mean, you guys are feeling it now because you're sitting next to each other, right? So the music that we make on our own is completely missing that.
Mm.
completely. We're not crossfading with the people that you're gonna hear the music. So there's a separation. The only thing that's gonna guide us is that grid. But
Yeah.
there's a problem with the grid. You have a what do you call it? A click track. We used to make music without click track. I played in bands with OG drummers. I'm talking about guys that were playing drums when they were little before rock and roll existed. So when they, let's say the Guess Who, Gary Peterson, he was started playing when he was 3 years old, and then rock and roll happened, and he wanted to hang out. Meanwhile, he's been playing jazz, with in Winnipeg, like with the big jazz musicians in town. And then he going to school. He wants to hang out with his buddies, which is basically the formation of the band, the Guess Who, Randy Bachman, being one of them. And so now he's been playing with jazz artists, and now he's playing rock and roll. But what they do is they bring that swing, they bring that
Mhm.
feel. They're not quantized. They know, just like in jazz, you look at the emotion of the song, and certain parts of the songs you're going to be more ahead of the beat. Sometimes you're going to be behind the beat because it's emotional music. It's a conversation. It's not right on the grid. That is the biggest difference that I experienced from being in the same room with the band recording it, everything. Uh, and it just didn't start because of Pro Tools. It started, the first experience that I had with that was the Whitesnake Slip of the Tongue record, because we were in the studio in Reno and there was only enough outboard gear, let's say, to cut the drum tracks.
Mhm.
So whatever I play, and we both played at the same time, but I have to redo my bass once the drum tracks were done. So now they can take that outboard gear and apply it to the bass.
Mm. Wow.
So it was like, okay, I gotta do this not only all over again, but I'm not feeling it. I'm not looking. There's no body language. Tommy,
Yep.
Tommy, yeah,
Uh-huh.
Tommy Alders. He's got one of the best body language of any drummers. He conducts. Those guys of that level, they conduct the band with their body. They're very articulate when they play with their limbs. They don't
Yep.
fake you out. You don't have to
Yep.
guess what is going to do next. So
Yep.
I would always watch him with my peripheral. I could always see what he was doing, and I can't do that anymore. You know, and because I'm in my room, and then they send me the tracks, and I'm at the point, because I've tried different processes, and the one that's working out the best for me is saying, okay, guys, thank you for sending me the track. I know you sent me like a little guide, basically telling me I want, for the feel of the song, I want some quarter notes here, I want some eight notes here on the bass. And a lot of times, because, from experience, these are young musicians that have never had a multi-platinum record or played on one. And I have, and I know what it takes to make successful music. So I'll take the liberty and say, no, I'm going to play it this way here. I'm going to play that way here. I'm going to explain to you why. And the choice of notes, because my role as a bass player is really to support the singer.
Mm-hmm.
The singer, a lot of times, especially with a young band, they don't even have the vocals yet. They're so focused about laying down the guitars
Oh,
and the drums.
100%. 100%.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
when it comes to, the singer is kind of like okay, we got to have a singer in the song. So here we go. You know, and my job is like, no, my job is to support the singer,
Yes. Oh, yeah.
and almost like ghosting them, like a ghost behind them, just follow a
Yeah.
shadow them, right? And that becomes when I'm talking about the singer, I'm talking about the vocal melody and where it goes. If it's going to go up, I can't go down, because that would leave a gap. It's like if you listen, if you study Bach chorales or everything, the soprano, alto soprano, tenor, and baritone, they follow. It's a cluster. This is how you play chords. They don't do make huge jumps. They might have a drop. They'll drop the baritone note down below the tenor. I mean, I'm sorry, the tenor note down below the baritone, but it's in levels, steps that leads up to that note. You know what I mean? So the whole melody follows that flow of intervals. So you
Yep.
got to do the same thing, when you play the bass. And also, if the singer is kind of like staying on the same note, I can't really go up too high on that, because that will like get closer to his range, and my conflict with
Hmm.
this note, what he's hitting. If I go above that note, that's no, that'll take away from the vocalist.
110%. I couldn't agree more, man.
I never thought about it that way either.
It's
Definitely.
I'm getting all giddy and all happy because I literally just had this conversation with my band. Because I told them, I was like, hey guys, what if I wrote the vocals first? And then everybody was able to like really push me. So they give me that accent, they give me that push, literally everything you were talking about, because it's almost like nowadays the vocalist has become so secondary, where it's almost just like a cherry on top, instead of us making sure this cherry is as vibrant and beautiful as possible. And I think maybe that's why, like, when you hear bands like Journey and you hear Steve Perry so huge, or where you hear like his vocals sound huge, or when you hear James Hetfield's vocals sound so huge, you hear all these artists sound so huge because they were so focused on amplifying the vocalist, and everything you explained just hit it right in the heart.
Yeah, yeah. And if they argue with you, you tell them, look at any song. It will say words and melody or music, which is what it's copywritten. When you
Yeah.
copyright a song, you're not copywriting the chord sequences. You're copywriting the lyrics and the note that goes with that lyric, and that's it. That's the song.
Dang.
I love it. I love it, Rudy. That's absolutely beautiful. Before we end the interview, we're gonna shoot you like 5 fun questions. Is that okay?
Yeah, yeah.
All right, sounds good, Josh.
All right, so I was doing my little homework last night. I was watching the US Festival on DVD, and doing some homework on you before we did this, and I had to ask. I'm sure you've been asked 100 times about it, but what happened with Ozzy punching you backstage at the US Festival?
Okay. So we go into reality or myth?
Let's do reality, because the myth. I'm sure everybody's heard the myth. I'd like to
Okay.
hear the reality.
Okay, myth. Reality is that I did not see anybody backstage. See, Wikipedia is a really dangerous source because there's a lot
Yeah,
of
it is.
misinformation in it.
Anybody can put their 2 cents.
But okay, the incident that you mentioned happened a year later in
Oh,
Kalamazoo, Michigan. Yeah,
okay,
nothing to do with the Oz Festival. I did not
okay.
see anybody whatsoever at the Oz Festival. First of all, we were added 2 days before that show. We have been touring with Scorpions. They were warming up to play the Oz Festival. They have been in the studio recording. So we did about 3 weeks with them on the road. And the last day, we played Denver, which happened to be the promoter was the same promoter as the Oz Festival, Barry Fay from Fayline. So he sees our show and runs back into our dressing room when we finish, and he goes, "Hey," introduces himself and offers us the spot. That's 2 days before the show. As a matter of
Wow.
fact, you can find shirts that on the medal day will say in the back of the shirt Joe Walsh, because they moved Joe Walsh to the pop day with Stevie Nicks
Okay.
and Bowie and all that. So there was an opening. So he offered it to us, and we took it. So, which meant that now all of a sudden we had to scramble because our crew back in the day, we took everything. Everybody took everything with them. you have to get a U-Haul truck and get all your drums and equipment in there. Nowadays, when I tour with Quiet Riot, everything is provided. I just SVT amps wherever I go, and Alex has Marshalls, and then there is anything from DW to Ludwig's and Gretsch drums for Johnny Kelly. And but back in the day, you had to bring your own stuff. So we sent our crew ahead of us to the next gig after the US Festival. So we flew in. We did a show in El Paso the day before in the afternoon, some festival. Went to the airport, got the flight to LA, drove down to the site, which is about an hour and a half from Los Angeles airport, and we checked into the hotel. We got up early in the morning. We were the first band on noon, which means we had to be there at least between 10:45 and 11 o'clock in the morning because we were playing at noon. We didn't have a crew. Our crew was driving the truck to the next day, and we had to scramble to get equipment from because SIR is 40 years ago. So places like SIR were not big enough then to supply a whole festival backline. So whatever was available, it was all taken by the other bands that had already been booked months before.
Man.
And so we had to ask for favors with our friends to bring their equipment. Of course, they wanted to be a part of it, so they complied. My bass rig did not work. I had to plug in through the monitor system. There was so many technical difficulties. But the point is, we had no time, and we knew that as soon as we got off the stage, that we had to towel off, go back to the airport so we can fly out to the next gig, and that was it. We didn't see anybody.
I love it because it totally puts like you said, puts the myth to rest. Hopefully.
Yeah, well, it happened, but it happened the year 1 year later.
Yeah, a year later, you were saying.
Yeah, a year later, we were number one. We had the number one album and all that. So it was a whole different dynamics. By the US Festival, we were nobody.
Okay.
That's okay. Thanks for clarifying that. Because like I said, I was reading that and I'm like, I'm going to find out a little bit more about that. So it's good. It's I guess it's cool to know, getting the real story directly from you.
And this is why I do podcasts.
Love it.
I like it.
Yeah.
We have two more. Go ahead.
No.
Okay, so final two questions. Who is your favorite lead singer you've ever played with? That kind of blew your mind in the studio. That could do on stage and in studio.
Ronnie James Dio.
Yep, I love him. Yeah. A quick side question: what is one personality trait about Dio that doesn't get talked about enough?
I don't know. Because it's so obvious. His integrity, musical integrity. Yeah, I mean, Randy shared that with him. Yeah.
I think that's absolutely beautiful. What is one thing you're good at that is not music related?
Nothing. What am I good at? I can do time travel.
Oh yeah, you can time travel?
Yeah.
Well, okay. I also follow a lot of quantum physics and podcasts and everything. I watch this show called The Y-Files, which is one of my favorite podcasts online. And where's your favorite place to time travel?
Here, now, where I happen to be, but I'm still connected. It's seamless. It's always now, wherever I happen to be at. I
love it. Rudy, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for taking time out of your day to talk to us. It's a dream come true. This is my favorite interview I've ever done in my entire life because this hits home to where I got introduced to rock and roll, and you will forever be somebody in my heart and somebody I talk to my son when he gets into music. So from me and Josh, just thank you so much.
Thanks, Rudy.
Josh, Omar, thank you. God bless you both. Thank you for the great interview.
God bless, Rudy.
Last thing, Rudy. Last thing.
Yeah.
Can you say this is Rudy Sarzo and you are listening to the Metal Mixtape?
Hey, everybody, this is Rudy Sarzo from Quiet Riot, and you're listening to the Metal Mixtape.
Woo! Thank you so much, brother. You have a beautiful day, beautiful rest of your shows. We'll see you later,
Thank
my
you.
friend.
God bless.
Thank you. God bless. Bye-bye.